Hi, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that touches so many of us, but we're going to look at it from a totally new angle. We're talking about dyslexia and how some incredible new research is showing us that it might not be a disability at all. Actually, it could be a blueprint for innovation. Let's get into it. So let's just start with this, because it's so powerful. For way too long, the story around dyslexia has been all about what's missing, about being behind. But it turns out that entire way of thinking might just be wrong. The struggle that we see is often a sign of a very different and really valuable kind of strength. I think this is a story so many of us recognize. You see this amazing spark in a child. They're curious, they have these brilliant ideas, but then you see their frustration in a school system that just doesn't seem to get how they learn. It's this painful disconnect, and that's really where our conversation starts today. So yeah, it is absolutely time to flip that narrative. We are moving away from this old, outdated idea that these kids are just struggling to keep up. And we're moving toward a new understanding, one that's based on solid proof that their brains are actually wired differently for a super important reason. And I want to be really clear here. What we're about to go through isn't just some nice pep talk or wishful thinking. This is based on hard, scientific proof from some of the most respected universities on the planet. And what they're finding is that dyslexic brains aren't broken. They're specialized. So what is the science actually telling us? Let's jump into the incredible findings coming out of places like Cambridge, Harvard, and Yale that are completely changing how we see the dyslexic mind. Okay, so this is where it gets really fascinating. The core discovery from Cambridge University is that our brains have to balance two things. On one side, you have exploitation brains, which are amazing at refining what we already know. Think routines, systematic tasks. But on the other side, you have exploration brains, which are much more common in people with dyslexia. These brains are wired to discover what's new. They're great at creativity, innovation, and seeing the big picture. And here's the key. The difficulty with rote skills, like decoding words on a page, seems to be the evolutionary trade-off for having this incredible exploratory strength. And this isn't just some interesting academic theory. It has really urgent, real-world consequences. As Dr. Helen Taylor, the lead researcher on this, points out, our world desperately needs this kind of thinking to solve our biggest problems. It's not just a nice-to-have skill anymore. It's pretty essential for our future. And the proof just keeps coming. Get this. A Harvard study found that dyslexic astrophysicists were way better at spotting black holes. Why? Because their brains are literally wired to see important patterns in visual noise that the rest of us just miss. And then you've got Yale, where their Center for Dyslexia and Creativity has spent decades showing how these so-called compensatory skills, the clever ways dyslexics figure out how to navigate the world, turn into these incredible professional advantages later in life. Okay, so we've looked at the science. Now let's see how this all translates to the real world. We're going to look at some amazing people whose dyslexic minds are, no exaggeration, changing our world as we speak. Let's just start with this number because it's staggering. A huge study found that 40%, 40, of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. Now, that is not a coincidence, that is a pattern, and it points directly to the power of this way of thinking. And hey, how about this one? Half, 50%, of the investors on the show Shark Tank are dyslexic. Think about that. These are people whose entire job is to spot patterns, see potential that nobody else sees, and invest in the future. It's pretty clear that exploratory mind is a massive asset. Speaking of entrepreneurs, let's talk about maybe one of the most famous on the entire planet, Sir Richard Branson. His story is just a perfect example of turning what everyone thought was a weakness into a world-changing strength. I mean, his journey was anything but traditional. He was basically labeled a failure, dropped out of school when he was just 15, totally lost in a system that just couldn't see his gifts. And yet, this is the guy who went on to build a global empire of more than 400 companies. And now, he spends so much of his time making sure that the next generation of dyslexic thinkers doesn't have to go through what he did. And this, right here, is the key, and it's in his own words. He says he didn't succeed in spite of his dyslexia. He succeeded because of it. It's what gave him the ability to think differently and see solutions where everybody else just saw a dead end. Okay, so now let's go from the world of business to the world of science. This is Carol Greider. She's a Nobel laureate, and her story is it's an incredible story of perseverance, and it shows what can happen when potential is given just one chance to shine.
She spent her entire childhood thinking she was stupid because she was always put in remedial classes. When she applied for graduate school, she was rejected by 8 out of the 10 programs she applied to because her test scores were too low. But one school, just one, looked past those numbers, and it was at that one school that she made the discovery that would go on to win her the Nobel Prize in medicine. Just amazing.
And just listen to how she connects it all back to her dyslexia. She says the very skills she had to learn to get by in school, that ability to connect dots and see lots of different things at once, were absolutely critical to her success as a scientist. It wasn't a problem to overcome. It was part of her gift. So, why is this conversation so important? Right here, right now. Well, it's because the world is changing fast, and the skills that are going to be the most valuable in the future are the exact same skills that dyslexic minds are naturally wired for. Just think about it like this. As AI starts to take over all the routine, repetitive tasks, the very things that dyslexic brains often find tedious, what's left for us humans to do? Well, it's creativity, original thinking, and complex problem solving. A recent report from Ernst & Young actually confirmed it. These are the signature skills of the dyslexic mind. So the future economy isn't just making room for them, it's practically being built for them. So what does all of this mean for that bright, creative child we talked about at the beginning, the one who might be struggling right now? I think this is the single most important thing to take away from all this. In every single success story we've looked at, there's a turning point, and that turning point is never, ever about the person just trying harder. It's always, always the same. It's when someone, a parent, a teacher, a friend, finally saw them for who they truly are. It's the power of one person or one opportunity. It was the one school that looked past Carol Greider's test scores. The one teacher who told the amazing space scientist Maggie Adarin-Pockett to follow her dreams, not her grades. The one mom who told Barbara Corcoran that her struggles with reading meant she had a wonderful imagination. That one person can change everything. So we're going to end with this thought. Dyslexia isn't something that needs to be fixed. It is a powerful way of seeing the world that needs to be unlocked. The science is there, the stories are so inspiring, and the potential is just limitless. So the only real question is, who's going to be the one to turn the key?